My family, or say my parents, they never saw music as something I would want to pursue. So I had to do it underground, like low key. That's why most of these songs come out. Most of them, they have no producer, produced by, or probably you just be produced by Alan Mapigo. Because if they realize that I was in the studio, I'll get my ass whooped. Yes, mute that. But I never stopped. I never stopped. I never stopped. It came with me, got money when I started working in my career as a pilot, saved enough money, bought my other stuff, opened my own studio. Lufa became the producer there. So he did some tracks too. But then I had to move out of the city. As I said, if you don't, we all have visions, but if you cannot get somebody who has the same vision as yours, that dream will fade away. It will always fade away because it's not the same energy if you were there. So when I moved out of the city, I was like, you know what now? My studio is dying. I'm putting in so much money. I don't see returns. I had to close it down.
Yeah, it's really true, bro. Quitting something does not mean that you have lost. I even remember on our previous episodes, that the one that we did with the Manihorix from the Big Boys FX, he told us that you should always know when to stop loss and when to take profit. It doesn't mean that you have really lost, or quitting that you have lost. So sometimes it happens so that you can do some other things as well.
I mean, yeah, it's true as the captain's saying, don't hold the door for too long. Know when to stop. So back to the plane.
Yeah.
I've been on the plane. I've been scared, but not knowing who's the captain, who's doing what.
Yeah.
So that's my point of view. Your point of view, what's the most challenging flight you've been on? The other side. Thank God I've landed this plane.
We as pilots believe that the moment you take off and land, you save lives. Because an airplane it's just a cylinder. It's a flying cylinder. It's up there. So if you take it off from this ground to the sky and put it back down, you have saved lives. But the most challenging part of it is mostly the pressure and the weather. Mother Nature, if it takes you, it takes you. You cannot fight it. And that's what we're trained to do. Know when to say no and know when to say yes. If your instinct tells you no, then don't do it. Sometimes you're caught in the middle of it and you have to decide. You've heard of planes going halfway and then coming back. Those are decisions you make in a split second because it's not stopping. Yeah, so that's the challenge.
I remember I don't know the dates. I'm not really, I forget things, but I know the story. I remember back then there was a flight that got lost. So what's your thoughts on that? I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Do you know the flight?
I remember that, yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? How is that possible?
Okay. In an aircraft itself, there's so many devices and systems in it, To get lost means nothing or none of the systems are working. We have something called a transponder. Transponder is what locates. Whenever you're flying, transponder is always on. So it reflects on the radar map, on other planes, the controllers, that where you are. Switch that off, you're flying dark. But don't quote me that that's what happened.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that there's such scenarios that that could happen. ELTs, these are emergency locator. These are devices that, after an impact, they signal out for some time so that it can be traceable. But if the battery dies, then that's it.
Is it true that in the plane there's something called a black box, which they say that is indestructible? So even when the plane is lost, they can trace all the information of the plane from that black box. Is it true or it's just a myth? So why can't the plane be made of the same material that the box has been made of?
Okay, if you go back to the physics of aircrafts or anything that flies, you need to be lighter than air. Okay? Now imagine the whole plane itself, the way it is right now, with the same material, the aluminium material, it weighs tons and tons and tons. Imagine if it's heavier than that. More weight, more fuel. So the world, the technology takes us to places where we need lighter materials for less fuel burn. So it's just economy, you know. So we cannot have everything heavy. It's like somebody asked me, why don't passengers have parachutes? You understand?
we?
Because
don't
you
we?
need to be trained for that. One, two, each parachute bag is heavy. Imagine a plane that carries 275 passengers, and every parachute bag weighs about 10 kilos. That's 2 tons of extra weight.
Is it true that pilots breathe different air from the passengers?
It's the same, man.
What about the food part? Is it true you have to eat different meals?
Yes, it's recommended that you eat different meals just to avoid food poisoning.
Oh, fair enough. Now, talk about challenges. We just came from how you said the challenge part, and you said when you fly and you land, you've saved lives.
Yeah.
But then I want to talk about personal challenges as a pilot. What are the personal? What's one of the top challenges that you have faced when you're a pilot and you overcame them? Doesn't have to be in the air. It can just be as a pilot in your career.
You don't stop studying. It's a challenge. You always have to stay fit. You always have to stay updated. You always have to read
Why is that?
because systems and technology changes every day. You need to stay fresh. We human beings forget. Imagine, because you don't do things like emergencies. You don't have emergencies every day. Sometimes in a lifetime, as a pilot, you might not face any emergency. Now imagine you've flown for almost 2 or 3 years, and you haven't had any emergency happening to you. You forget the procedures. So you need to be studying every moment. That's why we have trainings every 6 months. Every 6 months we go checked. You get checked out on our emergency procedures. What to do?
Is that an exam?
It's not really an exam. It's a check. Check.
Remember.
Yes,
Remember.
you need to remember the right procedures. And I believe it's just part of it is the insurance purpose.
Okay.
If the book says, if this happens, you need to do A, B, C, D, you need to remember A, B, C, D. If you do A, B, D, the insurance is killing you. Why didn't you do C? You understand? So it keeps you on your feet. Like you remember each and every step.
You know, Captain, when it comes to cars, the knowledge is mostly general knowledge.
Yeah.
For example, right now I can drive a Toyota.
Yeah.
I can use the same knowledge to drive a G-Wagon. I can use the same knowledge to drive a Tesla or a Lambo. It's just like the same thing.
Yeah.
So today, let's say if a fighter jet, let's say F-22, can you ride it, or just like you can only ride some specific?
When it comes to pilot training, there are different classes and categories of aircrafts, and every category is a different training. I can fly a plane, but I cannot fly a helicopter. I need to go back to school and start all over again to fly a helicopter. I need to do the same thing if I need to fly a balloon, a hot air balloon. It's a different training. But in the same category, if it's a plane, let's say Boeing and then flying an Airbus, same thing, but you need to study the systems of that aircraft, how to operate the systems of.
So when it goes back to, you said the emergency part.
Yeah.
I mean, God forbid if it has not, but have you ever faced an emergency?
Have I? Yeah, that happened.
What was it? Or what's an emergency to you that to us we thought it was just? I mean, as a passenger, thought it was,
If you keep in mind that planes are made by people, some things are they're bound to fail at some point, and that's why we are trained for that. Anything that happens in that aircraft, you need to know what to do. So we've had, I won't say where, I won't say when it happened, but we've had emergencies in my career throughout. Probably I've had oil loss where the engine just shuts down. I've had like bird strikes, a bird hitting a plane. I've had that. I've had sick passengers on board. where you need to divert.
Has it happened before you had
Yeah,
to
yeah,
diverge?
it happens.
Cause someone's. Oh, okay. Has that so for example for those type of emergencies that you're saying you can't mention, is it usually like an internal emergency whereas us in the back don't really know, or is it a thing where when that happens the whole plane knows?
There's some that you wouldn't even notice. I know there's something happening. I need to get down. Some emergencies happen. We go through our procedures, and it's resolved within a specific time. Yeah.
So for example, young person right now watching this episode
Yeah.
wants to become a pilot. What are the misconceptions that are there within becoming a pilot, especially in our country?
The topmost misconception is you need to study science to become a pilot. People have that in their minds. It has to be physics, it has to be geography, it has to be math. I never did that. So I am a living testimony that I never did that. I did physics, chemistry, biology, Form 5. I was given a rat to dissect. I couldn't do it, and I left school. Form 5. And I left school. Joined university program, did 5 years degree, and I went for my pilot training.
And the 5-year degrees was not on.
Not on aviation. That's computer science, software engineering.
So